UFC 303 this Saturday in Vegas. Could it get any better? It sure can when you get in with my partners, DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. It is a banger of the card, and the light heavyweight championship is on the line in the main event. New to DraftKings? Check this out. New customers who bet just $5 get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. When you sign up, use the code Sonnen. DraftKings, the crown is yours. That's right. New customers can bet just $5 on anything and receive $150 in bonus bets instantly. From the much anticipated title fights to the exciting undercard bouts, DraftKings is giving customers a shot to get in on the action all night long. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. DraftKings is the one-stop shop for all things daily fantasy, where you got a shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. New customers, use my promo code Sonnen. Bet just $5 on any wager and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code Sonnen only at DraftKings Sportsbook. There's times in this sport where the rules don't apply, but they don't come along very often. They really don't. There's almost a scientific formula to build it. Do you remember that guy? He went down. Was his name Perlman? I can't think of his name, but he was known for building boy bands. Turned out he was running a Ponzi scheme, and they put him in federal prison. But he had a formula that no one else had. He knew it. He had a formula where he could take 5 guys in a band, and they were roughly such and such age, and he could take them to the top. Do you remember this guy that I'm talking about? Because MMA, there are similar formulas. There's just not very many guys that know them. But unlike a perfect math equation, sometimes you type everything in and you get a different answer. Like sometimes 2 + 2 is not 4. And you run into a spot where a guy does everything wrong, but he's got the right wins and he's got the right ranking, but he's done everything wrong. He has not built the fight. The promotion's not interested in it. You aren't interested in it. The box office isn't going to be great. Your media partners don't want to interview him and talk about it. At the same time, to show a respect to the integrity of the rankings, which you only created to create controversy, but to show a respect to the integrity of the ranking, you got to hold a fight. Even if it's not going to draw, you got to do it. Or you'll have times where the boys all stand back and go, this is the guy. Well, then you have to go with him. You don't have a choice. Like in many ways, Circarian is in an interesting spot. Like I'm very confident in telling you, if Islam returns to 155, Islam's next fight is against Circarian. Now, illness or injury, of course, makes us throw everything out. But I don't know that in a normal circumstance, the way that Circarian has played this would get him that opportunity. He's just found himself in a spot where all the rest of the guys have stood back. For example, one of the great voices of the sport, Justin Gaethje, who is, and I'm going back in time here, but leading into 300. Gaethje's on the card at 300. Max is entering the weight class, and he's doing it at 300. Circarian is on the card opposite Oliveira at 300. So now these guys are in an absolute battle for who's going to get the nod. But Gaethje, who's the most listened to of all of them, came out and said, I am going to beat Max, and I am going to fight Islam later in the year. The winner of Oliveira and Circarian is going to fight him first. Now, where that becomes relevant is once that's said, there is not a scenario or an example in history that you could give me where somebody in the office picks up the phone and goes, no, hey, we're actually going to do this first. It doesn't happen. You won't find an example in history where a guy comes out and says, I am the number 3 guy, and the office calls, hey, man, you're being a little hard on yourself. You're number 1. You won't find a time that that's happened. They were going to give Corey Sandhagen a fight. Corey Sandhagen said that fight should go to Aljo. That fight went to Aljo, and to this day, Sandhagen never had the fight. And I don't say that to pick on him. I'm just reminding you that each and every one of those words do matter. There is a game being played. There is nothing more important than making sure that you have a call-out. You can't make any money if you don't have an opponent. The punches and the kicks don't feed your family as much as you want them to and think that they do, or even think that they should. You must have an opponent. So now that we've established the importance of the call-out, the most important thing in the call-out is that you do not look weak within the industry. And the most important thing that you can have, and I'm talking from a financial perspective, I'm talking about sticking around. I'm talking about making sure you have a job tonight, and regardless of the outcome, you have a job tomorrow. You must appear as though you have power. Nobody does. It's all an act. Nobody's got any stroke. You must appear that you do, which is the importance of the call out. If you get the fight, great. I mean, that's slam dunk. But then there's other things. You could get a response. You could get put down and brushed off, but you still got something. All of those things are better than not getting it and being ignored. That is where you have now displayed, for everybody watching, that you have no power within the business. So whoever you call out, right? And they're all call outs, guys. Please don't get that wrong. That's another one of the misses by so many. Hey, man, I just want to sit back, see what happens. I'll take on all comers. Okay, great. Many people are going to say you failed to do a call out. No, you didn't. You just gave a call out. Many people will say, I'm going to sit back and wait. Okay, great. But you can't interpret that he didn't call him out. No, you just called someone out. You just called out wait. That is who you call out. Many people will say, I don't care who my next opponent is. Okay, great. It's not that you failed to call someone out. You just did. You said that it doesn't matter. You said that your next fight doesn't matter. So I can guarantee you it won't be for a title because those matter. I can guarantee you it won't be in a main event because those matter. I can guarantee you, regardless of who it is, it won't even be in a feature bout because those types of things matter and you just called out it doesn't matter. And the reason I tell you these things is I'm looking at Sean Strickland. Okay. And I have a special feeling in my heart for Sean Strickland. That's well disclosed. I don't hide that. But Sean Strickland got a very good argument right now. Like if you were to go to a jury and present your case for number one contender, I am very confident, even with those 12 people not smart enough to get a jury duty, they would give it to Sean Strickland. But Sean has now said he's going to wait. Now, there are times, that would be the wrong way to play it. But there are times when you can play it wrong and it still comes down to you. Because all the rest of the guys stand back, or the rankings suggest, or the current champion says, you're next. Like, there's ways. And what should Sean do? Like, Sean is in such a unique spot that if he was next and he was put in a position to wait, very rare thing in our sport. But one of the reasons I can see that being the right move for Sean is regardless of who wins, like Sean versus Duplessis, there is a story and there is a piece of unfinished business there that has got to be wrapped up. I mean, the very judges the night of the fight didn't agree with one another. Like, we have unfinished business. And the same thing goes with Izzy. It was so unbelievable. Izzy was a 6-1 favorite and lost all 5 rounds. Like, it was one of those things where, okay, you know what? I saw it. Good job to Sean. I got to see it again. It's one of those things where Sean could draw in against either one of those guys. It just always becomes a problem when you say, I'm going to wait. It's one of those spots. It's one of those spots because if that's who you get, if that's your call out is to wait, and let's say that you get it, you're taking off a very meaningful player from the board. Oh, by the way, there's an example and a precedence that now gets set that isn't the one. It isn't the one they want out there. So how could have Sean said it better? And if Sean's just going by the facts of I should have this fight because, and he's arguing against Robert Whittaker and he's talking about common opponents, he's right. He's got a lot of strength on the argument. But if Robert appears to be more willing to step in than Sean in our industry, that's a huge nod. And I think as Sean is saying he's going to wait, he should further his case. Like, wait is one way to say it. I've eliminated everybody else. It's the same thing, but it's different words. Sean has eliminated everybody else, is his point for why he should be number one contender. Sean versus Izzy works all day. I don't know that you could do great business with Izzy and Whittaker. Just for example, I mean, there would be 3 times, and that's kind of uncommon. And we have a couple of examples we can turn to, but not many. And it's not enough that I would take the spot from Whittaker, but it does add to a uniqueness of Sean. Like, I really don't know. I would love to see Sean versus Duplessis, and I would love to see Sean versus Izzy because of the story and the backstory there. And I have to be real fair with you. Like, I got the power to say which one. I don't know which one I want to see more. Like, those are very interesting matches for their own reasons. But the problem with weight is when you think that you're having to beat out everybody else in the contenders, right? You got your top 10 list. You're looking at all the top 10 guys. And of the top 10, only the top 5 are in a discussion for a title fight. So you look at those guys and you say, man, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. None of these guys can pass me. None of these guys deserve to. I've already beaten these guys. I'm going to wait right here. And it makes sense. You look around and it makes sense. And the one thing that people miss when they're looking at the rank, I'm ranked number 1 and they're all here. What they miss is, well, there's actually 2 guys in front of you. But you don't see them on the page. If you're staring at the page, you don't see the 2 guys here. You know, well, there are no 2 guys. I'm number 1. Everybody's down here. It's like, no, there's 2 guys in front of you. And that is the 2 guys that already have the bout agreement signed. That is the actual championship match that you have to wait for. And if that match plays out in a certain way, if it needs to be rematched, it needs to be immediately rematched. And you can go into the history of our sport, they're not the same. There's a number of rematches they do just fine. There's a number of rematches that you really wanted to see. The ones that did well were the ones that needed rematched. And how do we know they needed rematched? Because they were immediately rematched. It's a completely different vibe and feel to if you rematch down the road or you do an immediate rematch. It's a completely different feel. And you want to be careful. You want to be careful putting yourself in that boat of waiting for 2 guys that are going to fight, particularly if they're going to fight again. Now, all of a sudden, it can be a year down the road. And I get that things can change, and I get that opinions can change. I get sensitive. I read all the stuff that Sean puts out. I like the stuff he puts out. But when he says wait, I believe that he was making a case between himself and Robert Whittaker and why he should be the one, and therefore he will wait for it. And I just remind you that there's a different way to word it, and there's a different way to say it, and those words do matter. They're all being paid attention to. Food for thought. Strickland is definitely the top contender. He's the top-ranked guy. He definitely should be the backup fighter if there is one. He definitely should be next, regardless of the winner, for Du Plessis versus Izzy, in my opinion.